We now have the 12th named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. I'll let you know where I think Leslie is headed and the potential tropical development in the Gulf of Mexico. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, my name is Rusty McCranie. This is Meteo Mundo. Great to see you on a Thursday. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, we have a new named tropical storm in the Atlantic. We'll talk about Leslie, still monitoring the potential tropical development for next week in the Gulf of Mexico. And once again, it's been an active weather day across our area. We'll look at that. I love to hear from you guys. Drop into the comment section below where you're viewing from, what the weather has been like. Appreciate those who take a second to drop a comment in and help out the channel. Does even more than you probably realize. All right, let's get into it. You are looking at getting all the data back here on the weather system. We've been fighting that with the data feed because a lot of this actually comes from a data hub in Asheville, North Carolina. And again, extremely impacted by Hurricane Helene in western North Carolina is. So we now have back to our enhanced satellite imagery, all the live lightning data, and these are current temperatures on this Thursday afternoon. What do you say we get started on our eastern side today? We'll take a look at what's going on in the Lesser Antilles. Again, temperatures today reaching the upper 80s to right around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, except where we've had some heavier showers and storms. I'm going to switch over right now to the visible satellite imagery here. That's the infrared. This is what it looks like on the Viz satellite imagery. Once again, it's a little bit clearer to see on this high resolution visible satellite imagery where we've had a few showers and storms develop for today. What do you say we take a look at those spots? We've had some hefty rain over portions of Trinidad. Watch out for some localized urban street flooding. Could be a little bit of flash flooding. You see Port of Spain's temperature drop by around 10 degrees Fahrenheit here as the showers moved in. We've had some clouds and a few showers over Tobago at the hour as well. Nothing as concentrated though as Trinidad. Few showers trying to sneak towards Nueva Esparta. We're trying to get a few showers over St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Grenada as well. Again, where you see those brighter whites, that's where we've had the opportunity for some showers for today. They're not going to be island wide, but pockets of some heavier rain have been drifting over the islands. It's been slightly quieter today over Barbados, but the southern and the southwest sides of the island near Bridgetown are the areas that have been highlighted for the best opportunity for some of the heavier downpours. Look, a couple of spots could still get 1 to 3 inches of rain today, 25 to 75 millimeters. A little bit quieter in St. Lucia. Again, a couple of spotty showers there. More rain over Martinique for today. Again, you can see those really bright white clouds. Those are the higher cloud tops on this visible sat imagery. Few spotty showers over Dominica. We've had a couple try and develop on the western and southwest sides of Guadeloupe. We've tried to swing the winds a little bit more today out of the due east, and you can see that just showing you for an instance Montserrat, and here's Antigua. All east winds. Now, the last several days, they've been more out of the northeast. That's promoted heftier rain on the far west and southwest sides of the island. Today, it's kind of more central and then the western sides because of that more due easterly trade wind. Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, again, isolated showers here. Same thing for Anguilla and St. Bart's. It's a little bit more of a northeast wind still up here towards St. Croix. You can see at least earlier the day, we had a northeast wind to begin the day. Same thing for the St. Thomas area as well in Roadtown. Still a bit more of a northeast wind. So in the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, will favor the southwest sides of the islands because the moisture will move into the northeast sides of the island. It will lift as we get across the central portions of the island, and then we'll see the heavier rain on the west and southwest side. So places like Mayaguez, on over towards Yauco, with an opportunity for some heavier rain here in Puerto Rico for today. Again, it's not island wide, but we've had some spottier showers. Let me switch back over to the enhanced satellite imagery here. A little bit clearer in this part just to see a few of those storms developing, and of course the live lightning count here at Meteo Mundo. Scattered showers have developed over portions of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, but they're still relatively isolated. How about a really hot day? Santiago de los Caballeros, 97 Fahrenheit for today. Lacaille getting a few storms there on the Haiti side. A couple of storms trying to sneak back into Santo Domingo as well. We're also starting to see a few showers kind of drift into the southeast portions of the Bahamas and back into the Turks and the Caicos as well. It's isolated in nature, but there is at least that opportunity. And I got a picture from my friend Bob Linville here from the Turks and the Caicos yesterday. I mean, come on, what a gorgeous shot there. Obviously, some sandy, shallow water there. Just love that. Doing a little bit of snorkeling, doing a little bit of diving, just enjoying a beautiful day in the Turks and the Caicos. Bob, I appreciate you sending me in that picture. They'll have another beautiful afternoon here, but a couple of more spotty showers are possible. Now, we get into, we'll get into the Northwest Bahamas coming up, I promise, but now we get into the areas that are, again, being more directly impacted by the broad circulation off of the South American gyre. First of all, note, it is a quieter day for Panama and Costa Rica and Nicaragua and even Honduras, because again, we have our monsoonal trough being lifted to the north as this area tries to develop. So it's going to dry out in the short term. It's not going to last long, and it's been very wet here lately. And on this water vapor imagery, you can see all of that red. That's the drier air that's currently in place. So basically, all the moisture is getting pushed to the north and into the Yucatan Channel and eventually into the south central Gulf of Mexico. Now, so far for today in Jamaica, we're trying to get up a couple of showers and storms to develop as we speak. We've been relatively quiet near the Kingston area, but we're trying to get a few showers at the hour as I'm recording this. So slightly better opportunity for some rain late afternoon and into the early evening hours. It's not going to be island wide, but even towards Kingston and Halfway Tree and Linstead and places like that, Old Harbor, Maypen, you can see some of this rain trying to move in. We've also had a few showers develop on the western sides of the island, St. Elizabeth, St. James, Westmoreland, and Handover parishes. Slightly better opportunity here. You see Montego Bay's close to some of that activity, and that might just continue to kind of develop and expand on the western sides of the island. So it's scattered. It's not going to be everyone, but the opportunity is going to be there. We've also had some passing rain over portions of the Cayman Islands for today. And again, not extremely heavy or concentrated in most spots. There's been a couple of those areas, but the moisture at least has been generally just to the north. And you can clearly see the spin right now associated with this broad area that it's still not a tropical system as we speak, but clear to see that spin just off of the Yucatan coastline, off of the Tulum, Cancun, Cozumel coast, and that has promoted some scattered showers and storms for today. And you can see how widespread the rain has been in Cuba for today. On the northeast side of this, it's gotten even wetter, and that has allowed, again, a few showers to sneak into the Northwest Bahamas. If nothing else, there's more moisture to play with, and then some of the activity out of Florida is trying to drive its way in. So again, let's switch on over to the radar data here. Let me bring that up real quickly and then drop off the sat data. You can see what I'm talking about here. The rain has been somewhat isolated or scattered in nature here, except down in Andros where we've had some decent showers. It doesn't look like anything's been too heavy for today. Not a lot of lightning with this, but on the north side of the island, some passing showers here. We've had a couple trying to sneak up towards Abaco, and then again, a few developing right over Grand Bahama from High Rock to Freeport, Lucaya, even towards the western areas right now. Again, spotty showers, no real thunder here, but you might see a lightning strike here or there, even up towards Walker's Key. So again, a little bit more rain here, and then you can see the storms are very hefty, closer to the Florida Keys, but especially back down into Cuba. All right, let's go back over to our sat data here, and again, continue the story. So this is obviously going to be an area that's going to be very active, and we're going to get into the potential tropical development here coming up, but that's what it looks like across our area on this Thursday. As we get into the forecast, appreciate you guys taking a quick second, liking this video, subscribing to Meteo Mundo. You want these daily forecasts across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, your tropical updates across the Atlantic. Friends, you have found your home. We have a great Meteo Mundo weather community. Thank you for sharing this with anyone who think might get something out of it, and of course, finding ways to support the channel as well. All right, so the next step in the forecast is to take a look at what's going to be happening in the short term. We'll go island by island for your weekend forecast. Now, I want to be clear. We still have our area here. It's down to a 30% chance. And if this is going to develop, it's not going to happen in the next 3 days. This is going to be more of a next week scenario for the Gulf of Mexico. So the first thing we'll actually talk about here is just kind of what's going to be happening island by island, with knowing that the fact that we're not going to actually have a tropical system influence the area here over the next 3 days. Will still be some tropical moisture moving into the Yucatan and the Gulf of Mexico, and that will promote some areas of heavier rain. But as far as getting a low-level center to wrap up over the next 3 days, I don't expect it to happen. But what do you say we start there and just to kind of talk about what's going to be playing out? Now, again, I mentioned it's just a 30% chance. Easiest thing to do right now is just drop off that area so we can get a better idea of how this is going to evolve. If you live in the Yucatan or the northern sides of Central America, Belize, Guatemala, northern sides of Honduras towards Roatan, Cuba, the Cayman Islands as well. These are the wettest areas through the weekend, all right? Could get some good tropical downpours, could get some heavy rain, some localized flooding in a few spots, especially over Mexico, because it's not just our spin in the Northwest Caribbean right now. It is what's left over of Tropical Depression 11E, which is going to be moving across the Yucatan and actually trying to bring that moisture back into the Southwest Gulf of Mexico. It's just a wet period here for these areas. I want you to notice again how sloppy this system looks in the short term. Nothing is going to try and spin up, but down the road, there is still an opportunity. And we'll take a look at some of the models into next week. We'll look at the GFS, we'll look at the European, and discuss it more. But a wet forecast for these spots. Now, even for the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, as the moisture moves north and west, your rain chances will start to fall off a little bit. Still a pretty good chance in the Cayman Islands tomorrow, and a spotty chance for for areas of Jamaica, but then those numbers will tail off a bit into Saturday and Sunday. So the best chance is still tomorrow, and then gets a little bit weaker into the weekend. It's just going to be scattered rain for the Bahamas. Slightly higher chance in the Northwest Bahamas. Again, some of this moisture on the far northeast side of the Central American Gyre and that spin developing could sneak into places like Grand Bahama and Walker's Key and Abaco and Eleuthera and New Providence, but it's still scattered. If you have some weekend plans, I think we're going to be okay overall. And then as we get into the central and the southeast side of the Bahamas and into the Turks and the Caicos, it's really pretty spotty. Not a ton to really look at here, but a couple of isolated showers are possible each and every day. Still have this broad area of mid-level circulation over Bermuda. That'll promote a few scattered showers there the next couple of days, but that gets shoved off towards the east. We'll look at what's going to be happening here with Kirk and Leslie coming up as well, the named storms in the Atlantic. But again, in the short term, neither of those are going to be influencing the area. Still could pick up a bit of a northeast wind here. As a matter of fact, I think it's interesting enough. I'm going to take 1 second here, and I'm going to bring on our surface wind vector. So give me just 1 second here, because I want you guys to note, I just need to make these slightly bigger so you guys can see them. And it'll take a half second for the model to fully load up. But for places like the Bahamas, like the Dominican Republic and Haiti, Puerto Rico, the US and British Virgin Islands, and then portions of the Leeward Islands as well, the wind direction is still going to be a little bit out of the north. At times, it could be out of the northeast. At times, it could be out of the due north. And even at times, it could swing out of the north into the west. It's a slightly unusual wind for this time of the year, and you can kind of see that right now. Now, as you get farther south into the island chain, it should be a little bit more due easterly, okay? And you can see some of the rain that's trying to develop there with those easterlies. So the rain chances are going to be pretty good for the Lesser Antilles over the next several days. But just to note again, that the southern sides of the islands here should have a slightly better chance for some heavier rain based on the wind direction. So places like Punta Cana and Santo Domingo and Barahona and Lacay will have a better chance for rain overall than places like Puerto Plata, Santiago de los Caballeros, and the Samana areas. For Puerto Rico, it's the same situation. Not going to have as much rain. San Juan, Aguadilla, Arecibo, the opportunity will be a little bit higher. Guayama on over towards the Ponce area. And anywhere in these islands, it's the southwest side of the island with that northeast wind that's going to have the slightly better chance for a few scattered showers, okay? The rain is going to be spotty for the next few days in Anguilla, Barbuda, Antigua, St. Kitts and Nevis, Saba, St. Eustatius, places like that. Guadeloupe, you get down towards Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, could have a little bit in the way of just a little bit more lift in the atmosphere overall. And you can see that here on the model, where rain chances will be higher for places like Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and then back down towards Trinidad and Tobago. Let me show you one of the model here real quick. Pull that out a couple of days, loop that up as well, just so you guys get the opportunity. Notice that the wind field is a little bit lighter here as well. I know it's going to take just a second, but there's your big change, right? Northeast winds here. But down towards the Windward Islands, the winds are actually going to turn back out of the south. And guess what happens? The moisture that's developing over the mainland will then be drifting back to the north, and rain chances shall go higher and higher in some of these spots. It's not going to be outrageously high, but it'll be better. I've got a 60% chance in places like Trinidad and Tobago over the next several days. Hey, we've tried to get a few showers over the ABC Islands the last couple of days. I don't think the rain is going to be as widespread Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but a couple of blips on the map to try and get a couple more showers for Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. And then again, Slightly drier, although not completely dry, for the southern sides of Central America, Panama, and Costa Rica. And you can clearly see again the wind field spiraling up. Now, what is very interesting, again, we're going to get into it a little bit more in time, but you can clearly see in the southwest Gulf of Mexico, that's the biggest wrap up of any winds, either at the mid or the low levels, compared to what's going to be happening in the Northwest Caribbean. But the Northwest Caribbean, the winds are going to be pretty darn fresh as well. You can see that right through the Yucatan Channel. Those purples mean winds are going to be 20 to 25 miles an hour. So we're going to pick up some winds, even if we don't get a true low-level center of circulation, at least through Sunday. And I don't expect that to happen. So let's get into your island by island rain chance. What do you say? Northwest Bahamas, 40% chance the next couple of days, 30 on Sunday. Central and southeast Bahamas, isolated in nature, slightly even drier in the Turks and the Caicos. Cuba's rain chances, especially central western sides of the island, will remain exceptionally high through Saturday, still pretty good on Sunday. There's the tail off of the rain chances in the Cayman Islands from 50 tomorrow, 30 on Sunday. Belize City's rain chances are still high, but they won't be as high, falling back down to 50 on Sunday, whereas places like Cancun and Cozumel, Merida, and the Tulum areas there on the Yucatan, rain chances are going to be up, and there could be some heavy rain at times, so watch out for that. For Jamaica, 40% chance tomorrow. Again, more isolated over the weekend. It's going to be humid as well. Feels like temperatures could approach 110 Fahrenheit, that's 43 degrees Celsius. The Dominican Republic's rain chances are decent. Again, decent rain chances, going to favor the south side of the island. Same thing for Puerto Rico, going to maximize it on Saturday for our friends in the U.S. and British Virgin Islands as well, but still an okay chance on Sunday. Bermuda's rain chances aren't horrible. Anguilla's rain chances, 50% chance tomorrow, 60 on Saturday. So those northeast winds are bringing in some decent rain, 40 on Sunday. Higher chances for St. Kitts and Nevis for Friday and Saturday as well. Antigua Barbuda, 40 tomorrow, 60 Saturday, 40 on Sunday. And then you get into some good rain chances over the next 3 days, just overall for places like Montserrat, Guadeloupe, and Dominica. There'll be pockets of heavier rain, but I think island-wide in these areas, we're going to get some decent rain the next 3 days. Martinique has a 60% chance for tomorrow. Pretty good shot for St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines as well. Barbados, 50% chance on our Friday, then a 40 Saturday, Sunday. Grenada, a solid 50% chance each day. There's your higher chances for Trinidad and Tobago. And again, pockets of heavier rain. Suriname and Guyana looking pretty good as well. Showers and storms developing with the heat of the afternoon. Nueva Esparta, 30 tomorrow, 40 Saturday, 30 Sunday. Best chance for rain is still today in the ABC Islands, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it'll tail off, but I still expect a few scattered showers to develop in those areas. Okay, so that's what's happening over the next few days. Now let's talk about tropics, then we're going to get into all the models. So first things first, what's going on right now? Well, hello, monster Hurricane Kirk. Look at the satellite imagery, friends. This is a Cat 4. We talked about how Kirk would be a major hurricane, and it is. Winds are 130 miles an hour. Kirk is a monster, but Kirk is the kind of monster that we like. Moving into the open waters of the central Atlantic, it's going to be a fish storm. Ships are going to have to dodge it, but no island is in the way. Bermuda is way off to the west. Eventually, it's going to recurve. It's going to lose its strength into the cooler waters of the North Atlantic. But again, Kirk is a monster storm. On the heels of Kirk, we have Tropical Storm Leslie. Again, we expected this as well. Leslie continues to quickly strengthen, and more than likely here, within a day, it's going to become a hurricane that fast. Now, the forecast is for Leslie to very much hug becoming either a Cat 2 or a Cat 3. But again, I had this in my thumbnail the last, I think 2 days ago, where I said 2 major hurricanes. That's it. At the end of this 5-day forecast from the Hurricane Center, Leslie is expected to become a major Category 3 hurricane. So yes, you do have 2 major hurricanes forecast in the Atlantic. One is already out there at Kirk, and Leslie is supposed to be one as well. Now, you can see that this track from the Hurricane Center is a good one. We're going to get into the models because not all of them fully agree that this is the track Leslie is going to take. But on this track, if it does, it's going to stay well to the east of the Lesser Antilles. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at just how far we have it here. Let me bring up my spatial tool. That is the wrong button. Let me bring up my spatial tool. Right there. Thank you very much. And then let's take a look at how far it is. So we'll just go from Right around Guadalupe looks about the closest. Now I'm just going to go out to the far western side of the cone of uncertainty. And we're still more than 700 miles away, almost 800 miles away. All right, so we're looking like we have a nice wide breadth, if you will, from where Leslie could be headed to any concerns. That being said, the European model is one that sneaks a little bit closer, so we'll take a look at that coming up. Now, in the short term, we still have what's going on in the Northwest Caribbean and into the Gulf. 30% chance. The models are trending slow and they're trending weaker. That's all good news. Ultimately, we still could get a depression or a tropical storm. I don't think it's going to be anything stronger than that unless something squirrely happens with this area of rotation back down in the Southwest Gulf, and if it can kind of be isolated from this larger, sloppier air mass. Again, I mentioned it yesterday as well, that eventually we're going to have a cold front coming in to the southeast United States, and if this doesn't develop between now and Wednesday, and it might not, that cold front will start to influence it and try and push it farther back to the south. So ultimately, this could end up being a rainmaker, and a very heavy rainmaker for portions of central and southern Florida and the northwest Bahamas. Cuba would be included in that as well. That is how this could ultimately have its biggest impact. But there still is an opportunity that we get ourselves a named storm in this area. So let's take a look at the models. I'm going to take the GFS deterministic, and I'll bring it out about a week, and we'll see what's going to be playing with this. Again, just going to remove the area in yellow, just a little bit easier for you guys to see. Again, we've already mentioned that we've got ourselves a 30% chance. All right, so here we go. You can clearly see, and we'll look at the wind field coming up as well, we have this broad spin, right? There is going to be some inherent rotation with this. It's just whether we get anything to consolidate at the lower levels of the atmosphere. As I mentioned, the next couple of days, it's going to be a wet system for tomorrow, moving into the Gulf. Now, a lot of this is just going to fall in the open waters, minus portions of the Yucatan Peninsula, northern sides of Central America, the Cayman Islands, and western Cuba, okay? Ultimately, this is going to get pushed to the east. That's what the models are trying to show. Now, this could start to get wet in Florida over the weekend and into early next week. And just depending on the model and how strong this gets, this could be significant rain. We're talking about maybe more than 6 inches of rain in some spots, and it could be coming in waves starting Sunday and maybe not getting out of here until Thursday. There could potentially be 4 or 5 days of very wet weather for Florida and our friends in the Northwest Bahamas. So if you live in places like Walker's Key and Grand Bahama and Navico and Bimini and Nassau, New Providence, areas like that, start getting in your mind that things could start to turn very wet late weekend or early next week and have multiple days of potentially very heavy rainfall. How this plays out. This could also be a depression or a tropical storm as well. But again, you can clearly see that this ultimately gets pushed east, stays relatively weak here on the GFS model. A lot of rain though. And that could be, again, the ultimate problem with this. Let's take a look at the surface-based winds and bring this up. So, you know, the Hurricane Center and most of the models are still talking about just one area here developing. Still think there is a scenario where we get what's happening in the Caribbean to come up into the central and the eastern Gulf, get pushed east as a very sloppy broad system, but still have some spin to contend with here in the Southwest Gulf. And we see if that tries to develop on the heels of whatever moves through. I think it's going to be a very active period in the Gulf of Mexico. Nothing may end up developing in a significant impact, right? A stronger storm, but we could have a couple of different areas to monitor, and some of that could be some heavy rain, and some of it could be some gusty winds as well. But again, as far as getting a very potent storm in the Gulf over the next week, at this point in time, I don't expect that to happen. Again, early next week, you can clearly see this wind field is broad, right? But it is still relatively significant. Take a look at some of the winds here when I query these, trying to move back into the west coast of Florida. These are sustained winds, by the way, where you're going to have some sustained wind potential pushing tropical storm strength. It's just, do we consolidate a true low-level center of circulation? It's going to be a very wet, squally pattern for portions of Florida and then into the Cayman Islands, including Cuba here over the early to mid part of next week. Still could have a little bit of spin down here as well. But again, ultimately, this could be very squally weather. And again, does that try and wrap up right there? It doesn't look significant on the GFS, but it does look very wet. And we'll take a look at some of the rainfall total potential coming up. So again, very quickly, we have shot through 4 named storms since Helene. I just want to point this out. We've now hit the 12th named storm of the season. There's Leslie, okay? Milton is next. Does Milton form in the Gulf this week ahead? We'll have to see how that plays out. But we have, kind of ticked up. We now have 12 named storms, 7 hurricanes. Leslie could be the 8th, 3 major hurricanes. Again, we're still on the lower end of some of these numbers, but we're getting closer to the NOAA forecast for the season. We're still nowhere near that high-end forecast. Again, some of the reputable sources that I use that had some higher-end potentials, I don't think we're going to get anywhere near that, thank goodness. But again, we're close to getting on the lower side of the scale, both in hurricanes and major hurricanes from NOAA. So let's take a look at the GFS ensembles, okay? I'm going to take myself off screen for this because I made it fairly large. I'll let that loop up again and you'll see. Now this is on a repetitive loop. No development over the next few days, all right? As we get into Sunday and Monday, we start to see a couple of those members try and spin up something, all right? You'll notice that some of those will then take it east fairly quickly. That's going to be that wet, sloppier storm. But there's a couple of them that try and hold something back a little bit deeper into next week. And that's the big question that I have. Does this all come through as one homogeneous, weak, sloppy system, or do we get a sloppier storm moving through early and then a potential stronger rotation and development behind it? Is it a one punch or is it a 1-2 punch? If it's one sloppy system, that's fine. We can handle that. It'd be some heavier rain. But again, on the heels of that rainmaker, do we still have an area of low pressure that tries to develop? Because we're talking about the GFS having a couple of these not coming through until Saturday. That's not with the circulation coming through the Caribbean right now. That's going to hit Florida by late this weekend and into early next week. Take a look at the GFS model, or excuse me, the European model. They are much more of those members with stronger storms holding back into the central side of the Gulf of Mexico until late this week. You can clearly see again the quicker development, some of those pushing into Florida Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe. Those are those right there. Some of them are stronger, but look at what's left behind. I don't know if this comes through, again, in one piece. Now that cold front's going to have a factor. It might try and shove everything farther south than what the European model is trying to show, but the European model is stronger. It does have some tropical storms moving through Florida early next week and then holding back the potential for another decently strong system next Thursday, Friday, 7-8 days from now and into the weekend following, all right? As I said, I think the Gulf is going to be active the next 7 days. I think there's a pretty good chance everything stays fairly weak and disorganized, but we can't discount it, especially what the European is showing, really trying to hold some of that stronger rotation, some of that just stronger vorticity behind the initial sloppier system coming back through Florida, okay? Let's look at the European model Atlantic Basin. Here's Kirk moving up and away. This is Leslie. Now I showed you that the track for the Hurricane Center is really far away from Leslie doing anything to the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. I do want to note though that on the European model, the spread of the ensembles with Leslie is much larger, especially compared to Kirk and compared to the GFS, where a couple of the outlying southwest ones at least get it closer, okay? I still think we have a pretty good margin of error, and that's going to be good because Leslie, again, is forecast to become a major hurricane, all right? Obviously, I'm going to monitor this for you each and every day, but I just want to show you that the European model is farther south and west compared to the GFS and compared to the track from the Hurricane Center, which has a faster northerly curve back into the central Atlantic. That's something we'll have to monitor. Still, again, should stay north and east, but it's an opportunity. Rainfall total-wise, significant rain developing in the Gulf. Some of that could be quite heavy central, southern sides of Florida into the northwest Bahamas. Take a look again right at that last marker here as we get into next Thursday in the northwest Bahamas. 4 to 6 inches of rain, 100 to 150 millimeters. Portions of Mexico, 10 to 12 inches of rain in a couple of spots. Central America, again, a little bit quieter, but still some heavier rain possible for Honduras and on over towards Belize and Guatemala. Cuba's wet. You can see some higher rain totals here in portions of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Just real quickly here, I'm going to show you the rainfall totals coming up, but if I just go back out to the GFS model here and let this loop up, just to be clear with what the GFS shows with Leslie, it's following the track from the Hurricane Center. I mean, dead on. So the Hurricane Center is basically going with the GFS as well. I can also put on, by the way, our spaghetti plots as well. Okay, so let's pause this real quick because I mentioned how we need to watch Leslie a little bit more. Most of the models, a little bit harder to see because we got Kirk in the way as well, keep that recurve going. Just a couple of them spray it farther west. And the European model is the farthest south and west. Okay, so the tropical models believe the GFS and that we're going to have a recurve well away from the Lesser Antilles. So I wanted to point that out. So now let's look at rainfall totals. It's not going to be pleasant. I can tell you that much right now. This is just over the next 5 days. Now, the front and where this goes will ultimately determine what part of Florida gets hit hard. The European model and the GFS are not in agreement with where the heavier rain falls. The European model is much wetter in Central Florida, and the GFS model is much wetter in South Florida, where again, it has a swath of up to a foot of rain. This could be really bad for areas that are still impacted by Helene, that are still trying to get rid of the water or do cleanup efforts or whatever. You just don't want that much more rain poured into areas with what we've already seen lately. Again, the GFS is not as wet, but in the Bahamas. But the best thing for me to do here actually is to take this and let's just go a little bit deeper into time. Let's go about a full week. Again, you can clearly see the difference here in the GFS, right? I mean, there's a huge cutoff. Freeport, Lucaya, maybe 6 inches of rain for Walker's Key, Grand Bahama, Bimini, and then it's a lot drier down here in the New Providence area. But take a look at that rainfall potential right there. Again, you've got a lot of spots over a foot of rain in South Central Florida. It'd be a big problem. A lot of rain over portions of Mexico, and then scattered heavier rain through portions of the Yucatan and Central America. That's what I'm saying, that ultimately this could be a very wet flooding rain scenario compared to being a stronger tropical storm. We'll see how it plays out. It's an interesting forecast, that's for sure. A lot going on, a lot of dynamics in play. Friends, I appreciate you finding us across all of social media. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture, it's myMediaMundo@gmail.com, just like Bob did. Again, you can find that email address in the description below. While you're down there, thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to Media Mundo. Appreciate you guys. You have a great rest of your Thursday. I'm back tomorrow with the latest forecast for you right here at Media Mundo.